Yes, I think when people have this fear of death, um, they just don't know what it looks like. And every religion that I've studied, and I don't spend a lot of time studying religion, but I have, through my own curious nature, looked at several religions throughout my life, and every religion talks about this concept of being eternal. Whether you're what religion it is, either you go to heaven, you go to hell, you go there for eternity. You're on the wheel of karma, you're on that wheel for eternity. You're in nirvana, it's eternity. So this concept that we are consciousness, that we're an awareness, and energy never is lost in the universe. I think that if we embrace the idea that we are eternal, and this is just a wink in eternity, then the question is, am I all in? Am I gonna go
Mm,
all in at this time in history? And this is a time in history, by the way, where we have all the practice that we have done in our own work, inner work, all of the knowledge we've learned, all the meditations, all the transformations, all the inquiries, all the pushing ourselves past our limits, all the training and practice of heart coherence, brain coherence, is for times like these. These are the times where it matters the most. This is now you have tools to self-regulate. You have tools. So changing your relationship with the understanding of death. Death is not a failure or the end. It's just a transition. So I just feel like when we confront that and we have a good conversation about it, and we really find the answers about it, I think we're more prone to be less fearful in
mhm,
our lives, and I think that's important. I mean, what's for some people, what's more relevant for them is the things that are in front of them. I mean, if you're facing a financial challenge and you've lost your job and you have a loved one that it has been affected, these circumstances put us into a state of fear and a state of survival and a state of stress. Well, stress heightens our senses and causes us to become materialists. We're more locked in our bodies. Our attention is more on the environment. That's where the danger is, and we're always trying to predict the next moment based on the past, and we become locked into three-dimensional reality, into the realm of space-time, and there is a formula. There's a door out, and it takes settling the brain and body down and going against those strong hormones of survival. Because in survival, if you prepare for the worst, there's better chances of surviving if anything less happens. But now, you start talking about dimensions and this veil between this world of three-dimensional reality and the world that is the invisible, the immaterial world, where, by the way, is a reality. Um, People are more open to it. The conversations that I just had with a scientist yesterday, who's a prominent researcher and scientist, is asking those same questions because we're not going to find them in just one area of science. It's going to take a greater understanding. So, yeah, we are dimensional beings living dimensional lives, and when the doors of dimension open to us, and we're privileged to see that, I think we begin to become less attached to this reality, and we don't have to die to have those experiences.
mm,
In fact, there are latent systems in the brain that, once activated, cause you to get a glimpse of the unknown self, the part of you that you're unaware of that is way bigger than what meets the eye. It's a technique, it's a formula, it's just if you practice it. I mean, we're always receiving information in our three-dimensional reality through our senses, and it's our thinking brain, our neocortex, that plugs us into three-dimensional reality. That's where we store memories. That's where we have experiences. That's where we learn information. This is the toolbox of how we navigate in three-dimensional reality. And so when the brain is in trance, when the brain has slowed its frequency of brain waves down, when we get beyond the analytical mind, we're more suggestible to information. And suggestibility is your ability to accept, believe, and surrender to information without analyzing it. And that's what programs us subconsciously. That's what begins to program the autonomic nervous system to begin to make a pharmacy of chemicals to match what our intention is. But we can't do it in certain brainwave patterns. We can't do it in stress and survival. And yet, when we learn how to slow down the thinking brain and begin to self-regulate and slow our brainwaves down, and our eyes are closed in a meditation, and we're not getting up and eating and smelling and tasting and feeling, and music is filling the space of the environment around us, our inner world starts becoming more real than the outer world. And as our brainwaves slow down and we can allow our body to feel safe enough to rest almost in a light sleep and keep our mind awake, there's a door. And that door then, by shutting down the neocortex, you're shutting down the memory bank of the known self, and you're losing track of your three-dimensional reality. You're losing track of space and time. Well, now you're still suggestible to information, but the information is not coming through your senses. The information is coming from frequency, because all frequency carries information. So teaching people how to go from a narrow focus on a danger, a threat, on the three-dimensional reality, we're habituating into this, what's called convergent focus. Teaching them to broaden their focus and open their awareness and take their attention off of everything material. When they do that properly, that vacuum, that place where there's nothing physical or material, is where frequency exists. And so the fundamental question is, how much of your waking day do you put your attention on the material world, on matter, and how much of your waking day do you put your attention on energy or frequency? Well, the research shows that if you keep putting your attention on it, that unified field is going to begin to organize your nervous system into more balance and more coherence. And when you shut down the thinking brain and you can stay conscious in your subconscious mind, a little radio receiver in the back of your brain called the pineal gland becomes activated, and it will begin to pick up frequencies, and it will transduce that frequency, descramble that frequency into profound imagery. And the imagery that you experience causes you to become more conscious in that moment. In other words, you're having a full-on sensory experience without your senses, and the information that your brain is processing tends to be more real than the three-dimensional reality you live in. You're at a greater level of awareness, a greater level of consciousness, and you get a hint about who you are when you're not your personality or identity. And religions and cultures talk about this transcendental moment for thousands of years, and that's the moment there's an arousal in the nervous system. And we have the research to show that the arousal is not little. The arousal is huge. And the arousal isn't creating fear or aggression or anger or pain that we normally feel when we're in stress and survival. That arousal puts the brain into what's called a high beta brainwave pattern. The arousal we're seeing is a gamma brainwave pattern that is so coherent, that is so organized, that is so amplified, that the only way we could describe what the person is experiencing, and they will use these words, they were in ecstasy, they were in bliss, they felt connected, they felt pure love, and they felt it in every single cell of their body. That experience inwardly is reorganizing circuitry in the brain, and it's sending a signal to the body, but it's not chemical, it's electrical. The person is getting a biological upgrade because information is reaching every cell of their body, and it's only when they can slow down the thinking brain and the autonomic nervous system, which controls and coordinates all the other cells and systems in your body, is now getting a very, very organized, very, very fast frequency pulse, and it's affecting the cells to emit more light and information. And all of a sudden, the person all gets a biological upgrade. Now, when they come back to their senses, remember, we don't see things how they are, we see things how we are. You have one of those moments, and you come back to three-dimensional reality, some conditioning, some limitation, some belief is going to be removed, and you're going to have a broader spectrum of what has always existed, but you didn't have the brain circuitry to perceive it until you had an inward event like that. That changes the game for everybody.